Ready to Die he came in and switched the whole way niggas was rapping back then.
Your man Pun dig in his pockets and throw the whole 20 grand in the crowd.
A nice percentage of that first album, we heard it before in YL. It was still powerful.
What was that like to see him?
You just watched 3 proof of impact moments. No think pieces, no essays, just energy you can feel in 5 seconds. A city gets its teeth back. A crowd becomes a mob the second money hits the air. A neighborhood legend turns into a national problem, and the numbers chase the noise. Here's the fight we're walking into. Best debut ever. Not the album you love most, not the one with your favorite single, the one that changed the speed of the room. On one side, you've got first week monsters. The spreadsheets, the plaques, the radio elbowing everything else off the dial. On the other, you've got projects that taught MCs a new way to breathe on the beat, that made yesterday's flow sound like last season's shoes. So we're gonna test both scoreboards, sales versus switch up, and we're not letting either one win on a technicality. We'll track the resets, New York's teeth, the South's tempo, the women who rewired the look and the sound at the same time, and the machines that turned the debut into a parade. By the end, you pick a crown and defend it. For now, keep your eye on the only stat that matters, what changed after it dropped. The cleanest way to start this fight is with 2 scoreboards, one you can count and one you can feel. The countable board says first weeks, plaques, radio domination. The other one talks about gravity, how a debut tilts the room, resets how people rap, and makes everything before it sound dated. When artists argue best debut, they're really arguing which scoreboard matters more. That's why the Snoop 50 side always runs to receipts. If best equals biggest, the spreadsheet wins and the conversation is over. But that's never how it actually goes in rooms like this. Artists aren't just listening for volume, they're listening for a new silhouette, cadence, breath control, pockets nobody sat in before. The minute that new shape shows up, the culture moves, whether SoundScan salutes it or not.
Biggie, I had my homies total bust your every record, every verse, Biggie ever spit. We would analyze it immediately and be like, damn, he bodied that again. It's not easy to body every single verse.
So here's the tension we're riding. If best debut is strictly a scoreboard thing, the crown goes one way. If it's the album that changed how everyone rapped the next morning, the crown might go somewhere else entirely. Which board actually decides the crown? Sales or switch up? New York didn't just need a win, it needed a reset. You can hear it in the way veterans talk about the exact moment the floor shifted. It wasn't polite. It was one of those changes you feel in your sternum. Flows getting heavier, beats growing teeth. The city remembering what its voice sounds like when it's not trying to be pretty.
He's saying ready to die. He's floating over. Stop floating for a minute.
And then there's the Yonkers earthquake. Before the world met the growl on wax, the boroughs already knew the energy. The lore isn't marketing, it's eyewitness. Packed school gyms, neighborhood legends, battles that turned into origin myths. That's why when his debut hit, it didn't need training wheels. The streets had already test-driven it.
He was already a star for us, like in the hood.
Y'all in the hood, he was
already a star in YO, in every hood he can put on. Yeah, he used to do shows in School 12, and he had a big battle. He had an infamous battle, Bill Blast, Mega Blast.
So the New York reset wasn't hypothetical. One debut rewired technique, another reintroduced fear. Together, they slammed the door on the shiny suit era and put bite marks back on the radio. But while New York and Los Angeles traded haymakers, who quietly built the next empire down south? The map doesn't flip overnight. It starts with a memory in a gym, a DJ testing a record, and a room that suddenly knows every word. That's the Bronx muscle, birthplace confidence that radiates outward. When New York resets, the shockwaves don't stop at the Hudson. They bounce through every region that's been building its own swagger, waiting for the door to crack. That's how you get a decade where the South doesn't just arrive, it starts calling the tempo.
John Hall and, what is it, John Hall and
Oates?
I sung on stage, she only come out at 9.
Those little school stage origin stories matter because they explain why certain debuts feel seismic across zip codes. The Bronx was a laboratory. By the time the sound travels, other labs are cooking too. Bounce, drawl, drum patterns that don't care what a New York purist thinks. Ask around. When Juvenile and his cohort bent radio to their swing, you could hear veteran MCs nodding whether they admitted it or not.
It's like that. That's the way. I watched hundreds of kids in the Bronx created hip-hop.
And in the late 90s, you hear a quiet salute in the room. Shout out to Juvie. That's not just a name drop. It's a pressure gauge. Proof the center of gravity is sliding. Once the South locks in a first wave of platinum debuts, the debate shifts from best lyricist to best takeover. Who changed the format of the party?
They shift. He shift. Shout out to Juvie. Juvie's still active.
So if New York reset the mic, did the South quietly reset the dance floor? And with it, the definition of a perfect debut? The other reason the South's claim hits different is mobility. Those records didn't just climb charts. They traveled. Car trunks, block parties, college campuses 2 states away. When a debut exports its rhythm faster than its biography, you're watching a takeover in real time. That's why the best debut question can't live in one borough. If a record changes how everybody 2 steps, New York, LA, Houston, Miami, that's not regional heat anymore, that's infrastructure. And once the clubs retune to that swing, the next wave isn't asking permission, they're inheriting a blueprint. There's a cheat code in this conversation that people pretend not to see. Some of the cleanest cases for best debut belong to women. Not just great for their lane, undeniable, period. That's why every time the list comes up, Lauren's name floats to the top before anybody can argue. The record didn't just win awards, it cemented a blueprint. Rap with virtuosity, sing like a problem, and treat sequencing like storytelling.
Entertainment of Lauryn Hill. Groundbreaking album. Phenomenal because she could sing incredible and she got the bar.
And if Lauren set the artistic bar, Kim and Foxy rewired presentation. The shock wasn't only lyrical, it was visual agency, cover art as thesis statement, flows that could sit next to any male feature and steal the record. From a culture shift standpoint, that's what a debut is supposed to do. Change how the next generation shows up.
Lauryn Hill's in the lane of her own.
Lil' Kim's first album was crazy. That shifted the way females wanted to present themselves. Foxy first album, Ill Nana, crazy.
And here's the part the culture keeps relearning. When women set a bar, they don't just compete with men. They reorder the criteria. Lauren didn't merely out-rap. She reframed vulnerability as power and melody as weaponry. Kim and Foxy didn't merely match aggression. They owned lens, styling, and subject matter so thoroughly that marketing had to keep up. If Best Debut includes new lanes created, these projects are doing 2 jobs at once, breaking a door and designing the hallway. That's not a niche win. That's a universal standard. The next class studies without even knowing it. Great debuts don't happen in a vacuum. They ride in on systems, street teams that feel like small armies, labels that can turn release week into a civic holiday, personalities so loud they create weather. That's why certain first albums feel larger than the artists. The ecosystem is part of the music. It sells the myth, but it also proves the myth in public.
You know, he would pull up the DMX album signing in a limo and start throwing $100 bills at DMX's fans and his crowd. Like, he was just different.
When that kind of theater circles a debut, you don't just hear it, you see it. The line outside the signing, the horns, the bikes, the cash in the air. Those visuals lock the album into memory. The cosigns then turn from help into propulsion. Suddenly, the verses are echoing off TV, radio, club, and rumor at the same time.
That pushed me more towards me being the Don Cartagena. They changed Fat Joe's whole life.
So is a best debut proof of one great artist or proof of a great machine picking the right moment to bet the city on them? Ecosystems also raise the stakes. When a label turns a rollout into street theater, a debut stops being an album and becomes a civic event. That attention can crush a first-timer or harden them. The best debuts stand up under the lights and under rumor. They survive the shaky festival mic, the radio freestyle, the prove it walkthrough at a rival's club. That's why cosigns matter. Yes, they amplify, but the real flex is durability. If the music still cuts through when the circus leaves town, you're not looking at good marketing. You're looking at a classic finding its own oxygen. Time to put rules on the table instead of vibes. If we're judging a debut, here's the scorecard. 1. Innovation. Did it create a new pocket? 2. Cultural shift. Did it change how fans, peers, or radio move? 3. Technical dominance. Verse, hooks, sequencing. 4. Replay value. Does it still hit? 5. Stakes. What did it risk? And 6. Scale. First week and lifetime numbers. Different eras weight those differently, but the greats hit at least 4. Now test that against the room. The artists here aren't allergic to new heroes, they're allergic to lazy comparisons. So when a modern debut really swings, the respect is there, even if no one's saying it replaces a sacred text.
Recently, I listened to that Cardi B album about 10, 20 times. Cardi B, she got some bars in there better than dude.
That's the nuance. You can salute a modern run without rewriting the canon. Criteria exists, so we can hear echoes and limits at the same time. Respect the leap, don't force the tie.
I'm not comparing the album to Lauryn Hill or Foxy or Kim's debut. I ain't saying one, but I'm just saying you got that Uncle Grady telling you her album.
So where does the crown land? If your scoreboard leads with scale, you're handing it to the monsters. If you value risk and rewiring, your ballot leans towards the architects. Either way, the best debut isn't just what you loved first, it's the album that bent you into loving everything after. Run the scorecard out loud. Innovation without replay value is a museum piece. Replay without innovation is background noise. Scale without stakes is safe. Stakes without scale might be cold. The great debuts triangulate. They invent a pocket and make it contagious. They gamble with identity and come back richer. That's why the canon hardly ever collapses under new hype. It expands. Modern runs get saluted for their craft and momentum. The architects keep their plaques for moving the goalpost. The crown lives where those two truths meet. Here's where we leave the room hot. You've seen the numbers flex. You've heard the verses that reset the cadence of a coast. You've watched the spectacle. Cash in the air, bikes in formation, a city treating release day like a parade. You've watched another city grab the tempo and refuse to give it back. You watched women redraw the map, not asked to be on it. Put all that on one scale and listen for the tick. Now answer without flinching. Are you crowning the album that sold the most, the album that changed the most, or the album that risked the most and won? Pick one. Defend it. Because the next time this argument starts, the only way out is through. Numbers versus innovation versus impact. Who you got?